talk.
So I haven't had a cigarette since, I want to say last Friday. So I'm coming up on a week. It's a horrible habit. I've been battling a affliction with tobacco since I was a teenager. Even before that, it's sad. But I tell you, nicotine gum seems to be doing the trick. That and a little combination of free will. You can do it. You can do it. You can quit smoking. Smoking's horrible. It's just a bad habit, bad for your skin, bad for your voice, bad for all kinds of things. Your lungs in particular. So yeah, I'm gonna do what I can to kick the habit this time. I've quit for like a year, 2 years at a time, 6 months at a time, a few weeks at a time. So we'll see just how long this one goes. But, of course, cigarettes are a major revenue generator for governments because governments tax the snot out of them. But the Tax Foundation, they put out an annual cigarette taxes and cigarette smuggling report. And it's pretty fascinating what they find. I talked with Adam Hoffer from the Tax Foundation, and he talked a bit about some of the findings. In particular, some of the key findings they have is excessive tax rates on cigarettes induce substantial black and gray market movement of tobacco products into high tax states from low tax states or from foreign sources. New York has the highest inbound smuggling activity with an estimated 53.5% of cigarettes consumed in the state derived from smuggling. New Hampshire has the highest level of net outbound smuggling at 52.4%, likely due to its relatively low tax rates. Illinois and New Mexico significantly increased their cigarette tax rate from 2019 to 2020, and both states saw major increases in cigarette smuggling. So when I talked with Adam from the Tax Foundation, he gave us a little bit more of an overview of just how Illinois is impacted by cigarette smuggling.
Yeah, so I think as most of your listeners would be aware, Illinois has a pretty high cigarette tax rate, especially in Chicago. And the state increased their excise tax rate on cigarettes by $1 a pack last year. So what we do is we study tax rates and some of the unintended consequences that come from increasing tax rates. And we just put out our cigarette smuggling report. And Illinois saw a really large increase in their cigarette smuggling in 2020. The tax rate increase was in 2020. And following that tax rate increase, Illinois saw a 14% increase in their smuggling rate. That results in about $200 million less in revenue because of smuggling in the state.
Think about that. $200 million less in revenue from cigarette taxes because of smuggling, and it looks like that could be 44 million cigarettes smuggled into Illinois from other states because of other states having cheaper taxes. So you think, we tacked on an extra $1 a pack of tax on cigarettes, and even the Tax Foundation showing that Illinois has a substantial amount of revenue lost, nearly $200 million revenue lost, and the smuggling has increased 14% from the previous study. But if you look at also some of the other statistics they have laid out, and as far as taxes on cigarettes, Illinois has about $1.98 a pack. If you look at California, it's $2.87 a pack. If you look at Maine, $2 a pack. Massachusetts has $3.51 a pack. Minnesota, $3.61 a pack. While some of the other states with lower cigarette taxes, North Dakota, 44 cents. You've got 37 cents for Georgia. What about Missouri, where I'm sure a lot of you go? 17 cents a pack in Missouri. So obviously a lot of you go into other states to get your smokes. And Adam Hoffer with the Tax Foundation talks more about how they're essentially being impacted when you are going across the state lines. You're not just buying smokes; you're buying a whole host of other things as well.
Well, yeah, this is one of the biggest challenges that comes with cross-border shopping and smuggling. A lot of your commuters from, if you're commuting from Wisconsin into Chicago, I think every smoker would prefer to buy their their cigarettes across the border in Wisconsin. So of course, when they're stopping, that's where they're getting their gas and all their other convenience store items. But perhaps the bigger problem, if we look at cigarette smuggling from a social perspective, is that all this money being spent in the smuggling world often is heading to black markets and criminal organizations. These are the groups that we least want to have additional revenue. They're organizations that don't only smuggle cigarettes, but they use that cigarette revenue to do a lot of other social ills that we'd much rather them not have that kind of revenue.
So how do we combat this? Adam Hoffer with the Tax Foundation lays out some policy suggestions from the research they've done, and he says that, well, maybe taxation is not the best way to go about these things.
Right. So if we look across the country, I think a lot of the intuitive states where you'd expect the highest smuggling rates are the states with the highest smuggling rates. California and New York top the list for about a decade running now, and those are the states with the where we find the highest taxes on cigarettes. When it comes to what can Illinois do, we've already heard that Illinois is considering another cigarette tax rate increase in 2023. I think good public policy should look at the bigger picture. Right? So what is the state trying to do with a cigarette tax? A cigarette tax does two basic things. It raises revenue. We know that. So if the state needs revenue, we suggest looking toward broader base taxes, sales and income taxes that you can have really low rate increases and collect much more revenue than you would collect from cigarette taxes. And then the other thing that cigarette taxes do is, of course, they discourage cigarette smoking. People respond to incentives. If prices go up, some people will smoke less. The problem with cigarette taxes is that we know from years and years of study that when the price goes up for cigarettes, very few people stop smoking or smoke less. It's a very sticky consumption. So if Illinois wants to encourage consumers to switch to some other product or to stop smoking, they can do so by encouraging other consumption. Things like vaping products are remarkably less harmful than cigarettes. Really consuming nicotine in any other form than a burning stick is remarkably less dangerous. And so the state could find ways to promote that. We have evidence that spans really, there are a lot of different programs out there that have been tried, and a lot of them work, from subsidizing things like patches and gums and lozenges to help smoking cessation, or literally the simplest tool in the book. Researchers have found that if you literally pay people to stop smoking, they will. and so again, when we look at public policy from a broader perspective, we think that states should really consider trying to help those people who want to quit smoking and stop trying all of the punitive measures.
So Adam Hoffer with the Tax Foundation has some interesting suggestions, and I think he's absolutely right. The worst form of tobacco use is that of lighting a stick on fire and inhaling it, and I think that's why I'm getting on the gum. All right, you should quit too. I'm not going to blame people for going across state lines to buy cigarettes for much cheaper. But yeah, check that out. The Tax Foundation. Their cigarette taxes and cigarette smuggling by state report for 2020. Fascinating stuff. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. I guess let's take a quick call here. Good morning. You are on WMAY. What's going on? Your thoughts on smuggling of smokes? What's up?
The truth is, well, the people who are using more of their income on cigarettes and buying less food.
Cigarettes are a lot. If you find yourself buying more cigarettes than food, then you really probably should just go right into rehab, like instantly, because that's not safe. All right, appreciate the call. Stay